What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Casey, and today we're gonna do a review and go through some of my thoughts and feedback with using a clamshell style tent for the last 2 years. Now, the one I have behind me specifically is the Roofnest Condor Overland, and I've had this rooftop tent now on 2 Jeeps, countless trips up into the mountains, Death Valley, snow, rain, heat, cold, wind, a little bit of everything. So in the video today, we're gonna give you my honest feedback of using this tent for 2 years. What do I think of the Roofnest Condor Overland specifically? But I thought I would also pair that together with general information and thoughts of this style of tent. This is a clamshell style tent where you open the lid, flip out the platform, pull down the ladder, and the ladder supports part of the tent. So there's lots of little things that I've learned along the way with this style of tent. And so whether you're going to take a look at a Roofnest Condor Overland tent, which this will be a great long-term review for you, or you're thinking about this style of tent, the clamshell style tent, I think you'll find a lot to learn from this video today. First, I want to start off with lids. The piece that you flip up and it basically contains and seals the tent inside. Now, this one has an aluminum box that basically covers and contains everything within it. The other style that you can get both from Roofnest and iCamper and a few other companies is like a plastic PVC flexible outer shell. And then there are some that have a fabric cover that goes over, and it's still a clamshell, but you don't need to lift off the lid. You can just flip it out and open it up. I don't have any experience with those ones. I generally stick to a hard shell style tent. I like the protection of the tent when I'm driving through the bush and the trees and anything that may rub against it or snag on it. As far as the materials, aluminum hard case versus the plastic outer shell, this is quite heavy. And the newer version of the Roofnest is actually even taller and weighs even more. And then the other thing about this is full of water. Somewhere along the line, this has started leaking inside itself. I don't know if it's actually getting into the tent, but there is some moisture that continually accumulates inside on the floor of the tent. And I'll get to that in a few minutes. You can hear water sloshing around in this hard lid. Because it's multi-layered, I guess there's some gaps in it, in the construction, in the layers, a place for moisture and water to accumulate and hide. And we get a ton of rain here in British Columbia, so if it's gonna happen anywhere, it's gonna happen here. The ones with the plastic PVC hard shell outside it's just a thin layer of rigid plastic, so there's really nowhere for any of the water to accumulate. There's no joints, there's no seams, it's like pressure molded, it's just one big piece because there's nowhere for water to be stored. Unlike this, it's sloshing around, and it's made this roof, this lid, quite heavy. Whenever I open it, it weighs more than it used to weigh. The way that this design works is there's actually a full rubber gasket all the way around the outer edge that mates up with the platform and seals the entire tent all together when this is closed. And so if you're wondering about dust getting in it or water getting in it, I've driven through some insanely dusty, silty, like talcum powder level dust down in Death Valley or the trails up here in British Columbia, and I've never had any dust ever get through this seal. Where a lot of the plastic shells will come down and sit over top, so they're not forming a real tight seal around all of the contents that are inside the box. This has done a good job at keeping the tent materials on the inside clean and dust-free and keeping the water out. Pause from the video, guys. I'm gonna show you a really cool trick that you can do with Onyx Off-Road's maps and Android Auto. Did you know that you can run the maps in 2 different modes while connected to Android Auto? I find this very helpful because I can have a satellite map and then I can have a topographic map over on my phone. We can have them at different zoom levels of detail. So I find this super helpful because I can move one map around further down the trail that we may be heading for a corner, looking around. Meanwhile, I'm not gonna lose my position here on the other map, or I'll keep one map zoomed really far out so I can see where I am in relation to things like lakes and mountains, and the other one zoomed in nice and tight so I can see where I am on the trail, upcoming quarters or points of interest. but you can also set one to 2D, like this one here, it's a flat overhead map. And then you can set one to 3D, where this one shows you different elevation and things coming up. And if you haven't started using Onyx off-road maps already, you can save 20% by using the coupon code KC250. Now the other thing is latches. So this seems to be starting to become a more popular style latch. I do like this style of latch. It flips up, it holds the tent down. It doesn't really provide any compression, but because the lid is so heavy, it provides enough weight and compression on that seal to keep it tight from dust and water coming in. And then it has a little lever here that locks the latch in place so that this can't flip down while you're driving. There's a little keyhole here. It's not a specific key, it's just a key with a little notch on it. But I generally just use my finger to push this little locking lever into place after I'm done closing up the tent. And what's nice about this style of latch is it's easy to do when it's cold and it's wet and you've got gloves on. It's nice and easy when you're trying to get your tent put away. Now, one thing to note with these though is they do have bolts that hold these latches together. And somewhere along in my journeys, this bolt has rattled loose and has come out. So only one side has a bolt on here. I need to put a bolt back through this other side. And then the other thing is you can see just how tight that latch is to my adventure rack that is attached to my Jeep Gladiator here. And I had to move the tent back a little bit more so that this didn't interfere with the rack or the window at all and that I could get access to it. So you do have to be conscious of where you're mounting your tent. If you're mounting it on your truck and it's getting close to the cab, they do need some room to flip down. I thought I would be able to bring it out to the outside, but these latches don't move. They don't fit on this side. There is a rail here that you could connect them to, but I couldn't, the way that the latches are designed, they don't seem to work and latch on there. You can move them back and forth across this rail if you want, but that doesn't really help you. As far as the rest of the exterior holding up, other than the lid letting water in, and there's now a swimming pool floating around in there, these gas struts on the outside, you can see they're starting to take on a little bit of rust. This has been through some snowstorms and ice storms, and because the gas struts are on the exterior, they are going to get hit with whatever else your Jeep is getting hit with. So do make sure you wash them off, rinse them off if they get some salt, but I don't know if this is from salt or not. And this is on the back of the Jeep, so there's not a lot of spray hitting it, but this gas strut is starting to get some rust on the part that doesn't go inside the rest of the strut when it's closed. And if you're wondering if this is rust, it's not. I need to wash this off. It's springtime and the trees are just dumping pollen every single day on the vehicles. So there's a little bit of pollen all around the outside edge. I mean, look, this is just from yesterday, the pollen accumulating here. So that is not rust, just so you know. And for the mounting system on this, this does have the traditional slotted rail design. This is very common in a lot of the rooftop tents. You just slot into the T-channel here and you can bolt it down to whatever you want, or you can use their included aluminum straps to go over a bar. On the Adventure X system, we have the crossbars, so I just bolted it directly to it. But when I had it on the JK with the rack on there, I had the straps on. So there's a couple different ways you can mount this, but nothing out of the ordinary, I think, is the main point here. You can see that I don't have the awning over the front window set up. This is kind of a problem because it hits the rail. There are metal bars like this one that you use for all three awnings, but I can't set this one up because the way that they bow, it hits the truck. Now on the back, I don't have a problem. It's super easy to set up, and it's actually even easier on the truck because I can stand on the tailgate and put those bars in to hold out the awning. But here's something to think about. Now this is not gonna be for trucks. My friend Chef John, he has a larger version of this with the ABS plastic shell on it on his Toyota 4Runner. When he puts the tailgate up on his 4Runner, it actually interferes with those bars, so he doesn't put them up on this side. He puts them up on the front. This is not a Roofnest specific problem, but any tent that's gonna have these bars to hold the awnings up could cause problems like that. Future Casey just jumping in because you probably also wanna know just what sort of footprint this will occupy on your vehicle. So the lid is 10 inches in height. So front to back, it is about 56 inches, but don't forget, If you have a cab or something close to those hinges, you'll probably want another 4 to 5 inches of room in front of the tent. You can't butt it up right against your vehicle. And it is going to sit at about 53 inches in width. So I've just come up to the top here. I want to talk about the material that this is made out of, as well as the extra rain fly that's part of this whole system. Now, Roofnest does say that these are 4-season tents. They've tested them in every weather condition. I have also tested them in every weather condition. And if you go back and watch my vlog from a couple weeks ago, you'll see we didn't have a very good experience with heavy rain and water getting in the tent. So go check that out. I'll put a link in the corner. And at the end of the video, once we're done with this review, I'm gonna get the hose out and show you that big problem once again. So you guys can see it here in the light and not on a camping trip. And this is supposed to have a 3,000 millimeter rainproof rating. So it's supposed to be good in heavy storms. And it had been for several storms until the last trip. So just poking our head in, on the inside there is a skylight, and even with the rain fly on, there's a clear plastic window so that you can still get light in through even when you have the rain fly on once you open up these internal panels. So you have a panel, kind of a, I wouldn't say these are blackout panels. The new Condor Overland 2 has blackout material, but we have this one drop down panel, and then we have a screen. So you can still get some ventilation and not worry about the rain coming down on you. Well, you'll see about the rain coming down on you later, but in theory, you're supposed to sleep with your internal layer open and pushed up like that, your screen closed. You can see the stars and get some really good ventilation in here. And if it starts raining in the middle of the night, in theory, you shouldn't get wet. So before we go to the inside of this, the other things I want to mention are the pull down strap. So this here, this is what you use to close it. Right here. Now, when I open it, almost every time this gets snagged on the base of the tent, and so you gotta get it halfway open and move it out of the way and then try to get it back. This does have a vestibule over the entrance area, this is cool because you can kind of climb in and kick off your boots and you don't have to worry about getting wet. When it was really pouring rain in the last vlog, I was able to just kind of sit up here and hang out while some of my friends were with me sitting underneath the canopies. The big problem with this, and this isn't unique to Roofnest, I've seen this with the iCamper as well, this turns into a pool very quickly when it's raining. And it happens every time. And so what ends up happening is you're climbing up here and you bump your head like this right at the right time, and all the water pours down your back. And that happened to me like twice on the last trip. So I always end up keeping a stick at the bottom of the tent, or when I climb in the tent, I keep a stick up here, and then I poke this before I get out so I don't get all wet. I don't know a better way to fix this, if they can make this tighter or some other design, but ever since day one, this has always accumulated water right here on this vestibule, and it's soaked me down my back. I can't even count how many times now. As far as ladders go, I really have no complaints. This is as standard of a ladder as it goes. It hasn't seized up, it hasn't broken, it hasn't bent. It's pretty much done its job as a ladder for the entire time I own it. Even the Velcro still holds the ladder together when we bring it up. I do find the clamshell style tents a little bit easier to close ladder because you have some weight on the top of it. So when you push these releases in, you've got the weight of the tent pushing down on it, and does make it a little bit easier to fold the ladder up, and then it gives you something to push the platform up and over and close the tent. And the other thing that I do like is when you have this platform out and the weather is bad, you've got somewhere to kind of put a bit of gear overnight, or even just come under here and stand underneath, and you don't need to have an awning or set up an awning. You can just hide under here. If you have the XL, which is even wider, Chef John and I have sat underneath it when it's raining and we don't have an awning. We can just tuck our chairs right to his vehicle and it keeps us dry. If you have this over top of your rear passenger doors on a Wrangler, then you can now have something that covers your doors when you open them and they don't get all wet. And I do like that Roofnest puts all these little D-rings all around here because I hang my lantern on here. All right, let's pop inside the tent and I will talk to you about some of the features in here, the comforts sleeping in this tent, and some notable little things, quirks that have come up along the way while using this over the last couple of years and many, many trips. So starting at the entrance here, we've got this sort of blackout layer, and then we've got the screen layer behind it. I really, really don't like the screen on the inside of the tent layer. When I set up my tent, I like to have the windows open, get some fresh air in there, dry out any moisture. If it's not cold, why not? When I go to bed though, the problem is in the dark, I now have to open my screen to close the exterior windows. And well, there's a lot of bugs in British Columbia and in a lot of the places that I go, and it's a great opportunity for bugs to get into your tent. What I would really like to see is every manufacturer of these tents, any style, whether it's a wedge, a clamshell, a pop-up, whatever, make one-piece doors and windows. We don't need to have a full screen window for the entire, we don't need to have the entire door and the entire window have a screen on it. Just make one panel that opens and closes, so you only have to do one zipper to get in and out of this, because just like the windows, we have to undo 2 zippers to get in and do up 2 zippers to close it back up again. So what I would really like to see every rooftop tent manufacturer adopt is a window and door that is one piece. This is going to solve 2 problems. So if we can make the door one piece, the solid piece, or the window a solid piece, and have a screen on a section of it that you can then unzip the solid panel and then get your window. The screen is out on the outside, so we don't have to worry about bugs. We can open or close our windows as we need. But to get in and out, you would only then have to undo one zipper, because to get in and out of this tent, I have to undo the screen and then I have to undo the actual door panel. Same with the windows. You have to undo the screen, close the window, do the screen back up. It's funny, like people joke about this at camp because they can hear me closing and opening a million zippers, getting into my tent and getting it situated for the night. This door panel doesn't actually zip at the bottom. So there's no zip along the bottom of the door to keep the draft from coming up. I don't understand why some of the tent manufacturers do this. The screen zips and goes all the way along the bottom, but the door panel is a square panel and it doesn't zip across the bottom. When the wind is blowing this way at the tent, it comes right up underneath the door and right into the tent. Now, if it's nice and warm, that's not such a big deal, but when it's cold, you're trying to keep the drafts out, yeah. And for this Rainfly, how has it held up over 2 years? Honestly, not too bad. There's a little bit of wear and tear on it. You can see there's some thin spots here and there. I think that's just from rubbing being inside the tent. But there's no holes or anything like that. There's just some mud and stuff on it from me going out and mud somehow getting on it. But the rest of the tent material has held up really well. None of the screens have worn out. None of the zippers are broken. I have no complaints about the overall construction. Now, coming inside the tent, you'll note I don't have the mattresses in here. I'll get to that in a second. The walls are not blackout in the Condor Overland 1. I haven't tested the 2 yet, but the specs on their website do indicate that they have changed the thickness and how much light can get through the new material. I honestly don't like a full blackout tent. I like to know when the sun has come up. I don't particularly like sleeping in forever when I'm out on road trips and campings. On the inside, we have some storage hanging out up top. They include a USB cord for this light that is attached with some Velcro strips above me here, like that. I've honestly never used this. The length of this USB cable isn't particularly long, and so therefore it never seems to reach the cord that I bring in here, because I usually bring in an extension cord with 110 and USB on it, and it really doesn't reach much further than right here, and I never really have a USB port right here. So I generally don't use this, but it does light up the tent pretty good. It's like It's flexible, it's in a fabric. So the only time I ever used this when I first got it and tested it out. It does light up the tent pretty good, but I've never used it on a camping trip. The other thing that I like about this style of tent on the interior is it does give you quite a bit of space. So I'll go get my measuring tape out, I'll show you. So as far as width goes, this guy is about 53 inches wide, and it is really long because you get an extra bit of space from the lid that has, what is it, about almost a foot of extra length from that lid that's open. And you get almost 95 inches of length. I know in my last rooftop tent review video, everybody said, can you fit in? I'm 6'2". Yeah, I mean, almost every tent that I've had, except for the tiny little alley cab, which I'll put a review to that, I can fit in them no problem, and I'm taller. So if you're a tall person, this is definitely the most length out of any of the rooftop tents that I've used or tested, just because of this extra space right here. So you can see when it's open, you get the length of the lid also as space that you can have inside the tent. And the actual weight of this tent with the ladder and the bedding in it is 165 pounds. The Condor Overland 2 is 190 pounds. The extra height that they've added to it to be able to store some stuff inside it has really increased the weight of it as well. So as for storing bedding in here, because of the way that the platform has to flip over and close, there really isn't any room to store much of anything. I've tried to store just bedding in here. It really doesn't work. You could try. There is a little bit of space right here that you could stuff a little bit of bedding or a pillow maybe, because the platform stops about here when it's folded over and folded closed. Obviously with this style of tent, there are hinges for the platform to go on, which means that the material doesn't seal all the way around. There is a big hole here that you need to make sure that the covers on the inside and outside are put into place as tight as you can get them. They don't fully seal all the way around the Velcro. It's just like a flap that you kind of stuff in here. Otherwise, you're going to get bugs and stuff coming in through the hinges on both sides of these. So when you set up your tent, you need to make sure the outside flap, which has a bit of Velcro on each side, is properly put in place. And you got to come in here and just jam this in on both hinges, and hopefully no bugs find their way in, because it's not sealed super tight. You don't have a lot of headroom in this style. We have right here, I'm going to say about 44 inches of headroom. So you can't stand up in this and get changed. You can't even really stand up and tilt over unless you're maybe like 4.5 feet tall or something. So I've spent several nights in the wedge style tents from Roofnest, from Alley Cab, and what's nice is because they open like a wedge, I can stand up 3/4 of the way, and it really makes a difference for getting dressed in the morning, especially when you're taller. Now on the back wall of this tent, we have some pockets, and we also have a layer here that helps keep condensation off. Now a couple things that I've noticed in this tent is this has never gotten wet. But the thing that I've noticed a lot is when the sun comes up and hits this black aluminum roof, it is like a giant heater. So if you're somewhere warmer and the sun's coming up and you're facing with this towards the east, this is going to heat your tent up like crazy. Now, if it's a cooler morning, that makes getting out of bed pretty nice. But if it's a warmer morning, boy, it gets really warm in here pretty quick when the sun starts hitting that all black outside surface and just radiating heat inside the tent. But the last big thing that I want to talk about with regards to the review of this tent is you can see all the water here on the floor. And I don't know where this has started coming from, but every time I leave this parked, I haven't even driven this in the rain since the last time I dried this out. It is getting water in here constantly, which is why we have no mattress in here. I'll show you the mattress in a second and talk about its comfort, but I really just wanted to continue to talk about the water getting in here. This wasn't a problem to start out. This is a problem that has started to happen over the life of the tent. I cannot keep mattresses in here anymore because it's constantly getting wet and the mattresses are soaked if I leave them in here. And this is not from driving, this is just sitting. So this isn't water that's coming in under the seal. Water is not getting in under the seal. There's no way that water would get in under that seal, and then there's a lip around the outside edge of this. You know, this is not possible. It's got to be coming from somewhere along the sides, I think, with the roof, because it's full of water. Like, I need to figure out what the solution is. I did a little bit of reading, and some people recommend drilling a little hole somewhere along the outside of the tent, but that seems like such a lame fix for a tent that's several thousands of dollars. So the water in the roof, I didn't start noticing it anytime immediately. It's definitely something that's developed over time. I originally got this tent in the spring, so it went all through a calendar year through the winter, and I noticed a little bit of water after the first winter, and then it seemed to dry out over the summer. But this past fall and this past winter has been very, very wet. I haven't taken this out really at all. It's just mostly been sitting in my driveway, but now it's like a swimming pool. And this is when the water started showing up inside the tent. So I'm gonna have to see what the options are to fix that. If we just have to drill a hole and let the water out, that would be great. But if water still keeps coming in because it's getting in from somewhere else, and yeah, it's great, it drains out the hole. But if it comes into the tent before it drains out, let's go in the garage. I'm gonna show you the mattress, and then I'm gonna put a hose on the top of this thing and show you just what happened last time we were out camping. Here are the mattress panels. They're easy to take out of the tent. This one here, the smaller one, has some Velcro on it so that it doesn't fall out of place when you flip the platform back closed. So these are a single density. They're like a high density, not like a memory foam. I found them very firm to sleep on. They are 2 inches in thickness. And I don't know how I'd rate this mattress. I would say this is slightly below middle of the road as far as rooftop tent mattresses go. I've slept on some less comfortable ones, but I've definitely slept on some more comfortable ones. It could be better. I think in the newer Overland 2, they have a thicker mattress, which definitely would be a welcome improvement for this. But if you're looking at the Overland 1, or really any clamshell style tent, do take note of how thick the mattress is, because the design of the tent does limit how thick they can actually make these pads, because they have to fold up onto each other and then continuously increase the thickness. So 1 inch additional thickness for the mattress means 2 inches of additional height for the tent. Now for the part of the video that you've been waiting for, the hose test. So what I want to show you is what happened when it was raining, I would say moderately throughout the night. And we can simulate this quite easily with a hose. And this becomes much more of a problem depending on the angle that you're parked on. Now I am currently parked on a 3 degrees incline and 1 degree to the passenger side. But if we put the camera up on top of the tent, look what starts happening in the middle here. Now, it doesn't fill up too much more than this because of the incline that I'm on, but if you're on a flat surface, this pool of water that you see right here will continue to slowly accumulate and droop the tent down even more as the water gets heavier and heavier. Even though the Fly is rated for 3,000 millimeters of water, it just can't handle standing water all night long. And if you're parked with your driver's side 1 or 2 degrees lower, it's like it is not always easy to get a perfect flat spot, then now your tent is tilted up like this and it will hold even more and more water. Now this didn't start happening the first time I took this out. I've had this in the rain a couple of times. Maybe I got lucky with just the angle that I was parked on, or perhaps the Fly is stretching over time and the tent is stretching over time. That seems a lot more plausible to me. And it is starting to accumulate and hold water during rainstorms. Now the other thing that I was going to show you is on the front of the Fly. That happens all the time, ever since day 1. And right here, water accumulates on the part of the Fly that is over the outside of the tent. So it doesn't really matter if it sags and drips through, because it's not dripping into the tent, it's just going to be dripping onto the ladder. But let me show you what happens. I'm going to try to get some water to accumulate, but I'm having a bit of a hard time because I'm on more of an incline than I would normally park. I try to keep parking with my rooftop tents to 1 degree in any direction, but here I'll show you. So this fills with water, and you go to get in the tent, and you climb up, and it's holding water right here, and all this water runs down your back every time. And I'll show you a clip from the last video. You can see me putting the tent away, and I forgot about it because I always forget about it, and it goes right down my back. So I'll leave it up to you guys whether you think the Condor Overland is a pass or fail and is possibly going to be on your list of potential rooftop tents. Do keep in mind there is a newer revision of this since I got this tent 2 years ago, the Overland 2. So you might want to check that out. I don't know if some of these problems have been fixed or not, but what I really wanted to do is make sure that you guys have everything you need to know when you're considering purchasing a rooftop tent of this style or the Condor Overland, and things that you can ask questions about perhaps in future models. I'm gonna suggest a couple videos for you guys to watch right here if you wanna check out some more awesome content on my channel. Let me know if you have any questions down in the comments below. Leave a like, hit that subscribe button because I upload every week, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Little Easter egg for anyone who's stuck this far in the video. I'm gonna put a link in the pinned comment for the first person that clicks on this is gonna be able to purchase it for free from dirtyanddangerous.com. This is one of the Mrs. 250 Viking hats. So if you're a channel member, you have a huge advantage because you can see that pinned comment before this goes live to everybody else.